Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. This is part 2 of a 4-part series. Right now, part 1 we just showed how we got this to this point, the demo and the whole package. Now we're ready to pour some concrete. First thing we're going to be pouring is this upper landing and staircase. We've already did the retaining wall, and we've got that center section there that's prepped for some artificial turf. We have some crushed concrete in there as the base for that artificial turf, and then we're going to throw some decomposed granite over that and then the artificial turf. But what we have here right now is rebar 3/8 2-foot centers. Concrete's going in, and this is a 3,250 psi straight cement mix, which means there's no additives in it. It's just 3 things plus the water, so there's really 4 things in this mix: sand, cement, water, and rock. That's what makes concrete. Everything else is additives. So we have the 6-foot Milwaukee red stick, and we're using that as our rod. We have about a 2-foot perimeter surrounding the artificial turf that's going to go in. It's going to be kind of the play area for the kids, you know, maybe a swing set slide feature there. That's a 4-foot magnesium bull float with a rocker arm on it, so you can adjust your angle of attack on the fly. That retaining wall you see there, we had to put that in as well. So we're on a hillside, so this is a split level house and yard. You can see the bracing coming down those step risers. They go all the way down to the dirt. And then we have a couple kickers at the bottom step, and that carries all the way through that angle top 2x4. So if you didn't have those kickers at the bottom step, all your risers could actually push out. They'd push out simultaneously, equally, because they're all tied together with that 2x4 and 16 duplexes, but the 45-degree angled kicker stakes at the bottom assure that everything, all the risers stay plumb. So with this particular mix design, because it is a small rock mix, a 3/8 minus, you don't have to really do a lot of tapping on the edges on the forms to get the air bubbles out and rock pockets, because there really isn't many with this particular mix. If you're going with the big rock, like the 1-inch minus, you're going to have to beat it pretty good to get the rocks to settle in against the side of those forms, which saves you some work in the end when you go to strip and face it. Here I am here. Right now I'm running the funny float. It's a fiberglass, and it kind of takes the place of a hand float, but it adapts to pull, so you can really reach out and float everything by hand off of a pole. On my expansion foam that I have around the entire perimeter wall, I'm going to run a 1/2-inch radius all along there. I'm just measuring right now because this particular yard's not actually a perfect rectangle. It's kind of oblong. So this line here that we're joining here, I have to make sure that whatever direction, however I put it in right now, I have to line that up all the way down to the lower level. So that entire joint, when I go to do my second pour on the lower level, is straight all the way through from the upper to the lower level. So we pulled the line all the way across the artificial turf, and we pulled it all the way down the lower level and marked the perimeter block wall. So when we do our second pour, we'll know exactly where to go without having to measure again. Now that we've already funny floated and we've jointed, now it's time to break out the funny trowel. Some people call it a whip trowel, a crazy trowel. It just depends on what part of the country you're in. Everybody's got their own terminology for different tools in the trade. But over here we call it funny trowel. Right now we're about an hour and a half into this pour, and it's time to start stripping off some of the excess lumber. We've got the upright stakes out that were holding those risers. They're out of the concrete because the concrete's drying a lot. It starts at the bottom and it dries up, so you got to get those stakes out pretty early. Otherwise they'll be locked in at the bottom. It may seem wet on top, but down below you could run into problems if you don't get them out when it's, when you get them out at the right time. On the bracing for that outer form of those steps, I just drilled a 3/8 hole in the wall and drove some rebar into that wall because we're going to stucco it anyway. I have the scratch coat on that wall, but now it's going to be stucco time. After this pour, I'll stucco it before I do the lower section. Before I pour the lower half, I'll get this thing all stuccoed out and textured. Also, before I move on to that second pour, we'll bring in the decomposed granite and top off this upper level. That way we're not wheeling decomposed granite base over the fresh concrete at the lower level. We'll take care of this upper section with all the heavy stuff. There it is, 50% horsehair nylon broom, working some magic. You could actually leave it with just a trowel finish like that. It's not a real hard trowel, so it's not going to be too slippery. The broom just kind of evens it all out, makes it uniform, guarantees you a non-slip. So we started with that outer form, we pulled that off. Now the risers will come off one at a time. If you were to pull them all at once, there's a good chance you'll knock the nose off of the step that you're kneeling on. So you work one riser at a time, and that lower riser saves your edge from getting knocked off when you're coming down the steps. He ran a 1/2 inch cove at the bottom of the steps, and then the 1/2 inch nose over the top. He's going to run it 2 times. The first time was to get it nice and shaped up. The second time was really the detail. Looks like he's running 100% nylon there. And all the nylons, they come in different textures. So in this case, this is a really fine nylon, so you can get a nice finish with that. Oh, it looks like he switched over to the horsehair. Wasn't liking that nylon too much. There's your finished product. Now the next phase is going to be prepping this lower half for the next pour. Once we get that lower half in, then we'll do the artificial turf. But it turned out real nice. A possible handrail could go on this steps, and then also another railing on top of that retaining wall. The way this whole upper area is designed to drain is into the far right corner. We actually put a drain in that location to catch everything underneath the artificial turf. Anyway, thank you for watching, and make sure you stay tuned for part 2, because that's going to be the big pour on the lower section. Have a good day, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.